I'm Jake, and this is
Neverland Navigation Radio.
Where today we hop aboard a non-stop flight through the history of Soarin.
Yes.
Woo! This is one of our favorite rides.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We're big Soarin fans. Last week, Morgan took us through the history of Journey into Imagination.
Mhm.
So if you would like to hear about the development of that, you should definitely take a listen back. I learned all kinds of things about Figment and how he got to be the way that he is that I never knew before.
Yeah, I like to think of that one more as the history of Figment, but you're right. It is mostly about the ride.
No, it does get into, later on, it does get into all the places that Figment has popped up. And that was
Yeah.
actually one of the more interesting things, was all the different ways that he's manifested
Yeah.
throughout the years. It was really interesting.
And that piece of original Disney IP is fun, just like our one of our favorite pre-show characters.
Oh, is it too early to get into the pre-show? I guess we should. But before we do,
yeah,
let's take care of some business. Patrick would want us to.
Yes.
He's very business oriented. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. It's a very exciting one. If you would like, you can also check out if you're listening on an audio version of the podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Thank you for listening. You can also catch us on the YouTube video version of the podcast on our channel, Neverland Navigation Co., if you'd like to see our smiling faces discussing Soarin', and we would love to have you there. And if you enjoy the episode on the audio platform, we would love to see you in the reviews. We love reading the reviews, and they definitely help to keep the show going, keep the show on the road or on the airplane. So we would love to see you down there as well.
The hang glider.
Oh, yeah, the fantastic flight.
Yes. If you're thinking about taking any kind of vacation, I am a free-to-you travel agent. You just need to send me an email at neverlandnavigationco@gmail.com, and I'll exchange contact information with you. We'll talk about what you're thinking, and I can get you the same deals you can get yourself online, or better, a lot of times better. And in addition to that, you get free trip t-shirts.
Yes.
Yeah, from our 5-star Etsy shop. So
yeah, I love that the shirts are included, because they're sometimes a very exciting part of the theme park or the vacation experience. Have a nice little trip shirt. That's so fun.
Yeah. Like if you're taking a Disney cruise or whatever, then they pay me commission, even though they don't charge more for your room. Sometimes they actually charge less. And so I give some of that back by making free shirts for you. So it works out. You're helping a small business.
Yes, and they're very soft. I'm wearing a Neverland Navigation shirt today, one of my favorites. EPCOT shirts are some of my favorite things to get from Neverland Navigation.
Yeah.
You could each be a different one of the 6 landmarks.
Yeah.
From Soarin' Around the World.
That would be crazy.
That would be crazy.
That would be a first.
Yeah, we've never gotten that before. That would be kind of wild.
Yeah.
All right, Morgan, should we start at the beginning?
Yeah, let's begin at the beginning.
That's the best place to begin.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start in 1996, which is actually a lot later than we normally start with these. It's normally back in the 60s or something. But that's when Soarin' began development, and the Imagineers were originally calling the project Ultra Flight.
Oh, Ultra Flight.
Ultra Flight. Isn't that like such a, I don't know. The name is very like strong. Ultra Flight.
Yeah. I guess that. Yeah, I always kind of especially at the beginning, although I was a child, or when I was first really thinking about it, the name Soarin' with the N and the apostrophe, it's weird, right?
It's a little weird. I think the word soaring is very like fantastical. The word Soarin', there's like a casual kind of quality.
Hillbilly.
Yeah, maybe. Soarin'.
I just
one of them flying machines.
Drop the G. What?
Yeah.
So I never really loved the name, but I just got used to it.
Soaring, the ride feels pretty formal. You're in like an airport, which is like a very formal type of setting. So it's weird. It doesn't fit the attraction really.
Yeah.
We'll get into a version of this ride that does not include the apostrophe.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Great. I can't wait to hear about that. I know that happened. I'll let you.
Yeah, it's a little bit later in the Soarin
Okay.
journey, but we do go over the name here. So it began as Ultraflight, and that is referenced in the current ride today on the tower.
Trying to
Soarin'
decide if
Tower.
trying to decide if I like this better.
Ultraflight?
I don't love it either, but
I also don't love it either. But Horizons was a great attraction name, but
Yeah.
its development name was Future Probe, which is like one I think terrible. I
Yes,
think not
terrible.
a good name.
Terrible.
So sometimes,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess we gotta trust them. The idea of the ride Ultraflight was that it was going to simulate the sensation of flight using a ride system.
Hold on. I interrupted you when you were saying where it was referenced.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Sorry, I never even
that
finished
was my fault. My fault. Go.
On the tower, the control tower thing, all that scaffolding, there's the code Ultraflight on the side and like a stencil, and that's a reference to the development name. There's when you're in the theater on the left side, or depending on which theater, and you're on one side of the front of the show building, there's nothing. And on the other side, there's like a desk where someone down there is sitting and like controlling the ride.
Yes.
There's scaffolding all around that, and that's what they call tower, the control tower. And on the scaffolding, there's the Ultraflight.
I'm going to be honest, I've never even noticed that existing.
Well, now you guys can look for it. And it's also, that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Really?
It's just an Easter egg.
So yeah, it's maybe you wouldn't even know to look for it or care, but now you can go look for the Ultraflight code on the scaffolding.
Okay, cool.
So Ultraflight, the idea of it was that it was gonna be like a flying ride. It was gonna make you feel like you were flying by lifting you up and then moving you around on an overhead ride system that they say was like a dry cleaning machine, and it was going to take you over,
which is what I imagine the future Monsters Inc. Doors roller coaster to be, like a dry cleaning machine.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Me too.
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
Interesting.
So that's what
that was the plan.
That was the plan, and they were going to move you above a combination of screen. I actually just said screen, like a screen that had like the landmarks on it.
Interesting.
That was the idea.
But you would be facing, did it say if you'd be facing?
I think they would have to tilt you down in some kind of way.
I would think so too.
Yeah, I would think it didn't. What I was reading didn't really get into it, but yeah, I would assume there would have to be, in the same way that Soarin' now does a little bit of tilting you. Not to the degree that they would have to tilt you in the dry cleaning model of this. But
sounds like you would have to be facing down.
I don't know. I don't think so, but it doesn't really matter because they never built it.
It doesn't
this
matter.
way.
Sorry,
they never built it this way because it was going to be really
on a dream.
On the dream of Ultraflight. It was going to be too expensive for them to build at the time. They did a feasibility study, and it said that it would be too costly to build, so they didn't end up building Ultraflight at all. They shelved it for future development until an Imagineer named Mark Sumner developed a different idea for the ride vehicles. And if you've ever watched a Disney behind the scenes type of special or program on television, they love to tell this story. I've heard it, I think, 1,000,000 times, but it is fun. He had an erector set at home, and so when he took a look at Ultraflight, he thought, oh no, let's do it this way, and he used his erector set to create a working model of the current Soarin' ride system, which lifts the guests up in the 3 different tiers and kind of swoops them into the screen. And once he presented that, it was determined that Ultraflight could be built with a reasonable budget and in time for the opening of Disney's then brand new theme park, Disney's California Adventure.
Yeah.
The ride was now called Soarin', so this is when we get our apostrophe for the first time. And the sensation of flight was accomplished by moving the vehicles forward toward the center of the big curved concave IMAX screen, which was then going to display landmarks from California because it was a California themed theme park.
Well, and the whole point of that theme park was to make it so you didn't have to go anywhere else in California to experience California.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be that if you wanted to visit California, that this is the only place you had to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why they built like a little San Francisco area and that, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So that they did not want you leaving
Right. They
Disneyland.
wanted you to experience it. That was the first, not the first, but that was like, they wanted the Disney bubble. You know, we talk about
Yes.
that here on this coast. It was kind of like that. They wanted you to spend your whole California vacation at the Disneyland resort.
Yeah.
And Soarin' was kind of the ultimate way to achieve that because it took you through
Yes.
so many of the different iconic locations in California, and it did make you feel like flying. They accomplished the subtle movements by synchronizing them to the film, and I didn't know this. Did you know this? It only moves you vertically. It does, like, up and down tilting. It doesn't move you. It
Side to
doesn't
side.
move you side to side in any way at all. But to simulate that, it will move you up and down at the same time that they're panning the camera
Okay.
to make you feel like you're going left or right, which is
Okay.
very impressive because I've never
Yeah.
even noticed, I
Yeah.
don't think.
I did not know that, but I hadn't really thought about it.
Me
either.
neither.
Yeah.
Same. I just hadn't, I
It
guess
makes sense.
in my mind I had just kind of assumed that there was some type of swivel to the arm that you're on when
Yeah.
you're doing it, but I had never really paid that much thought to it. But this was interesting to read, that there is no
Yeah.
side to side motion. It's
Yeah.
only vertical. That's really
It's
interesting.
kind of like an advanced version of their doing like forced perspective. Like they're always messing
Right.
with our brains.
Yeah, they're tricking you. Something else that was cool about this ride was that scents complementing the scenes were ejected into the airstreams.
Yeah.
And in Soarin' Over California, it was during the Redwood Creek and the Valencia Orange Farms sequences.
I love that. I think everybody loves that.
Everybody, I think the orange smell
Yeah.
is probably one of the most iconic things about
Yes.
Soarin'.
Yes.
I love that smell. It was such a fresh orange smell.
Mhm.
I can smell it now.
Yeah.
Soarin' Over California was an opening day attraction at California Adventure in 2001, and it was a hit because the park, when it first opened, was not an immediate success with guests because there wasn't enough for them to do. There weren't enough rides, there weren't enough attractions. So Soarin' Over California, and there was not a lot of like thrill or like e-ticket type
Yeah.
stuff. So Soarin' Over California always had super long lines. It was the big, it was the
Yeah,
big deal
yeah.
of Disney's California Adventure.
It was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. I remember the ads for Soarin' Over California.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. I remember it being quite the big deal. And
Yeah. I went on one of the first years it was open in the early 2000s.
Really?
And the line was insane.
I bet.
But it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was an exciting
I mean, it was like
experience.
nothing we had ever experienced before.
And there's just something so impressive about how big the theater is, how big the ride mechanism
Yeah.
is. It's a very like,
The way it makes you feel.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
the ride experience is awesome.
Yes.
When it opened originally, it was in an area called Condor Flats,
Mhm.
with a queue experience that was themed to an airfield with references to aviators of California history.
Right.
And they're all wearing like air suits, and it was like Top Gun.
Yeah, but it was just
Top-
pictures, right?
Yeah, it was like there were I think there were some like profiles of like, well, when you originally walked in through the queue, they had some type of aircraft on display
Right.
on the left
Okay.
side of the building. But I think when you got into the queue, it was like banners, pictures.
Yes.
They played
That's what I'm
music
remembering.
from like aviation themed movies
Yeah.
in there. Yeah. And then that's when you got to the pre-show video with the iconic Patrick Warburton doing like an amazing pre-show
Yeah.
that has. Did you think he knew it was going to be iconic when he did it?
I don't know.
It's hard to say, right? Because
No,
like,
I'm sure not.
I guess not, but it's so funny what ends up being so endearing to Disney fans.
Yes.
If they took that out of the ride, we would all be so sad.
Right.
You know, if there was another addition to Soarin' at some point, we'll get into the versions.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine? They might do that one day. I never even thought about
They
it.
did it to Mission
They did it to
Space.
Mission Space. I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Oh,
It is definitely possible.
but Disney clearly knows how important it is to us because they just did it in the D23.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and then
right.
they redid it.
He recreated his.
Yeah.
That was legendary.
It was legendary.
I loved it.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite. We didn't even discuss that on our D23 episode, but that was one of my favorite moments of D23.
Yeah, they got even the guy back.
Right. Yeah, the guy, the
Yeah,
these
the
little
guys with
beauties
the
guy.
ears.
Oh my god. Amazing.
No, I'm sure his schedule wasn't so booked he couldn't make it, but I was still surprised that
It
they
was
even bothered.
cool. Yeah, that they
Yeah,
like tracked him
yeah.
down. That's awesome. Another amazing
I
thing
mean, we don't
about
know. He could be an Imagineer. Oh, you might know. I don't
Oh,
know.
I don't know. I don't know. I have no
I
idea.
assume he's just an actor.
He could be somebody who works at Disney. They like to do that sometimes. They'll recruit people who work
Yep.
there to like do stuff for the ride, which
Yeah.
I love. I
Love
think
it too.
that's
I
so
love
fun.
it. Yeah.
Another thing that's great about Soarin' Over California was the score, an iconic, legendary
Yes.
score.
So when I know we're still talking about California Adventure, but when I
Yes.
hear the Soarin score, I think of EPCOT. Like it's like
Me
EPCOT's
too.
theme song. Okay,
Yeah.
go on.
I think, isn't that probably, do you think, because they also played it in the entrance loop?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when you were walking up, you would hear that
Totally.
amazing music.
Totally.
Yeah, I think about Epcot
It's like
too.
you've entered EPCOT.
Yeah. Oh, that music loop. Oh man. All right. The original score was by Jerry Goldsmith, who also conducted the scores of Mulan, Alien,
Move on.
Gremlins,
Okay.
and Poltergeist, and more. And
What a range.
I know the range on this man's career
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I expected you to name a bunch of Disney stuff.
I know, right? His Disney projects are like minimal.
Yeah.
Mulan is the major one.
Right.
He did music for like shorts and things here and there too, but his only like big heavy hitter Disney project were Soarin' and Mulan, but then also these other iconic movies.
Right. Wild.
So yeah, he's great. Yeah, he was the one who composed the original score, and there's this great story about him, one of my favorite Soarin' stories, which was that he rode the ride for the first time and came down crying. And when they asked him why, it was because his father was a pilot who loved all things California, and he said, "I'd do anything to be part of this project. I'd even do the score for free." Oh my god, that is so cute. I don't think he did.
I don't think so.
I bet Disney paid him handsomely
I
for
bet
that.
so as well.
But honestly, that story, it just pulls at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
Soarin' is kind of an emotional experience for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's like the score is very emotional and the feeling is very grand.
Yes.
You know, there's like a sense of wonder that comes with it when you're looking at these monuments on this huge screen.
Right.
So I get it.
Yep.
I get it, Jerry Goldsmith. I get it. I understand. There is a rumor. Have you ever heard this rumor? That then CEO Michael Eisner, our favorite CEO to talk about on this podcast, that he made a cameo.
He's certainly interesting.
In the attraction as the golfer who hits the golf ball. Have you ever heard that?
No, is it true?
It's not true. It's not true. I heard this rumor a couple of times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but recently...
I had not heard this.
You hadn't?
Mm-mm.
I kind of love this rumor.
Yeah.
It's silly.
Except for that it's total crap.
It's not true. People thought it was true for a long time. But recently, the fellows over at Podcast The Ride, which is a different Disney podcast, they did an interview with one of the creators of Soarin' who told them not true.
Okay.
So yeah, the Soarin' does not have Michael Eisner in it. Sad. I didn't necessarily want it to, like, I wasn't really gunning for it to be him or anything. It just goes to show you though that sometimes these Disney rumors that like go around and are accepted as so true for so long, you got to check the sources because sometimes they're just, it's just not true at all.
I mean, I would have been happy if it were true. You know
I don't think I would have cared either way.
Yeah.
I would be happy for him to be in it, although it is strange because normally the Disney CEO is never represented in the park. That's just not something that really happens.
Yeah, but the Disney CEO is always represented in little ways on the cruises, which is very interesting.
Right. Michael Eisner was actually in the video for Golden Dreams.
Well, it's whoever the current CEO is who is doing it.
They update it,
yeah.
right?
So right now it's Iger.
Right.
I think I'm about to see it. I haven't seen it in a bit, but last time I saw it, it was Iger, and we had just switched back to Iger at that time. And then on Castaway Key, there's at the mail post office kind of. It's a kind of a jokey area, they've got all of the CEOs listed in
Oh,
jokey ways,
cool.
the kind of Jungle Cruise-ish style.
I think I've seen a picture of that.
Yeah, totally.
They're
Anyway,
like painted on the building.
yeah, I don't mind them getting some representation. They're like they're like royalty to us. Don't you think in some ways?
Sometimes sometimes we want to depose them.
Yes, I'm
You know?
saying that in the way that like it's some with royalty, sometimes you hate what they're doing, but
Exactly.
they're still
It's true.
leading you.
Yeah, we have no choice.
Yes, exactly.
It is like that.
It is like
we
that.
didn't vote for them, but here they are.
Exactly. That's why I didn't say president.
That is, right, because at least that's our fault.
yeah. Or the people around us. Yeah.
Right.
In this case, no, I don't know who votes for CEO of Disney, but it's not us or anyone we know.
Yeah, whoever's on the board, I guess.
Yeah.
There's another about the golfer though. There is a fun story, which is that when there were tour guides that would take people on to Soarin during the golf ball scene, when he hits the ball toward the screen, a tour guide would then pull a golf ball out of their pocket and give it to whoever was on the ride with them, which is very cute.
They act like they caught it.
Right, they act like they caught it.
I love that story. We've talked about that.
We did bring this up, I think, forever ago.
Yeah.
Potentially doing a different EPCOT episode.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love that story. One of my favorites because I can just picture the look on some kid's face. So
right.
cute.
I love that too.
Are you ready for the EPCOT part of this?
Oh, yes.
Yay! The attraction was duplicated simply as Soarin, so no Over California, although it was the Soarin Over California film. And it opened in the Land Pavilion at EPCOT in 2005 as part of the Happiest Celebration on Earth campaign.
Yeah, maybe that's what we were talking. Did we talk?
That's right. Yeah, anniversaries. I think that was a thing, maybe. It's okay. So that celebration, they were like duplicating attractions from one
all
place
over the world
to the other.
Yeah.
Right. We got this as a gift, is what they called it, from Soarin or from California Adventure.
Right.
So that's how we ended up with it.
At the same time as we got like Lights, Motors, Action from Paris and other stuff.
Yeah, that was wild.
That was wild.
That was such a weird time, and they put that big like mirror thing on the castle. That was such a beautiful iteration of the castle. I loved that. How did you feel about it being California in EPCOT?
Oh, I liked it. But I just didn't put that much thought into like, oh, does this make sense?
Me neither, because like.
But I would now if they did it now.
Right. As people who think about these things.
Yes.
Now.
Yes, but it's kind of, you know how we do like food and wine, and there's like all these different countries, and then there's Hawaii or or Florida.
Yeah.
I feel like they do kind of do what they want.
Yeah, a little bit, definitely.
To represent different locations. So.
Yeah, I also wasn't thinking about it that hard because it's not like the queue was California themed.
Right.
So you just got on the ride and it takes you to California, so whatever. Sure. Then you fly over Disneyland at the end. That was kind of wild, but also very fun.
Yeah. I mean, in retrospect.
Yeah, it was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Especially considering what we have now. But like we said, it just wasn't something we were thinking about.
To me, it would make so much more sense now for us in EPCOT to have Soarin' Around the World, and for California Adventure to still have an updated version of Soarin' Over California.
I think most people agree with that.
Yeah,
I feel like it does. But also the concept of Disney's California Adventure, much like the original concept of EPCOT, has definitely been watered down over time.
Oh yeah, it's not even
California themed.
I know, I don't lightly.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe they don't care, but we'll talk about.
It's more to me like Hollywood Studios, like in that Hollywood Studios is very lightly Hollywood Studios themed anymore.
Very
just
true.
The front, really.
Yeah, pretty much just the front, and the rest are just kind of, you could put them in most of the Disney theme parks, and it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. Once they turned a section of it into Avengers Campus, they kind of lost their California. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and they reconfigured a bunch of the entrance plaza. There was just they took a lot of that corny California identity out of the park. Yeah, and now Pixar Pier. Anyway, so now that tangent is over, we've got Soarin' in the Land, and its the queue for Soarin' replaced the queue space previously home to Food Rocks which was a replacement of the Epcot Classic Kitchen Cabaret. So that's what that area of the land was before it was Soarin'. The actual stage of Food Rocks was just left in the dark behind the walls of the Soarin' queue for 12 years from its opening until 2016, when that space was used
Were the
to expand the
animatronics back
Soarin'
there?
bathrooms. I don't know if
Like-
the animatronics are back there or if it was just the stage. Unclear.
Hmm.
I think they were,
No
though,
big thefts.
because no Grand Theft Buzzy on this one. It was just I think the animatronics were there because they were part of the stage, and I actually think there's pictures. If you want to know more about that, go to our TikTok. It's the @Neverland Navco over there, because we did a TikTok about the history of Food Rocks and Kitchen Cabaret, and we include some pictures of the abandoned stage in that TikTok.
Right.
All right. So that's kind of cool that they just had a stage rotting back there for 12 years until they decided they needed to make the bathrooms bigger in 2016.
Yeah.
Just interesting, kind of eerie, weird Disney
Yeah.
trivia, you know?
Yeah.
This does happen, though. Sometimes they just leave stuff be because it's more expensive to demolish it than it would be to just kind of let it kind of ride, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's kind of got a creepiness to it.
Yeah, the idea of those animatronic figures just sitting there in the dark is definitely weird.
Right.
Definitely weird.
Like, yeah. A little Five Nights at Freddy's vibes. Like, I haven't seen that or anything. My kid was into it.
Yeah,
but,
it is like that. When new videos would come out of people sneaking into Wonders of Life,
Yeah.
I was scared to watch them.
Yeah.
Because it's such an eerie atmosphere to be in an all dark room. They're shining their flashlight, showing the huge empty auditorium. I'm like, get out of there.
Yes,
What
it's like
are
a
you
horror
doing?
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that was always wild to me. So unlike the DCA version, the Epcot version was taking flights to California as part of the new idea wasn't an airfield, it was an airport. So now you're not flying from California over California. You're flying from this airport to California.
Yeah, okay.
A little-
Except for that you're on a glide.
I know.
Yeah.
Like the airport thing doesn't necessarily directly translate, but it's a loose concept. Mainly, I think because they were jamming this California themed thing into the land pavilion.
Yeah.
Like, it's already kind of,
Right.
already kind of a mess. But the airport spiels refer to Flight 5505, which is homage to the attraction's opening date, May 5th, 2005.
Oh, cute.
So now we know that. That's cool. I had no idea.
Do you know if California did the same thing? Well, it doesn't matter.
Well, this says it's for Epcot, but maybe they do the same thing. Somebody who rides the California version, let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. The attraction was also retooled to be Soaring Over the Horizon for Shanghai Disneyland.
With a G.
With a G.
They didn't want any of that hillbilly nonsense.
Yes, that does not translate to the good people of Shanghai. The attraction story in this version.
I'm sorry, you just took a letter off.
They don't, yeah, it's kind of confusing.
I'll bet.
English is already, I'm told, very confusing to learn. The attraction story in the Shanghai version, did you know this? Centers around a shaman who grants guests the ability of flight.
No.
And takes them on a sightseeing adventure spanning the globe.
I knew it was different. I didn't know it was that different.
Yeah, that's so
that's totally different.
Well, it's in a
But is the show the same? Do you go to the same places?
You go to the same places.
They don't believe in hang gliding.
Except for in the finale, it takes you to Shanghai. Not even into Shanghai Disneyland. To the city of Shanghai.
Oh, interesting.
That's their finale, yeah. So that's a little different. But their pre-flight is the shaman. It's not Patrick.
Oh.
It's a shaman who grants you the ability of flight, and then you get on the ride and you fly. Really different, really interesting. That opened on June 16th,
but wait.
2016.
Sorry.
Continue.
So, but you go to the same place. The video is the same except for the end scene?
Yes.
But it doesn't look like you're on a glider.
I think it does look like you're on a glider, but I think their gliders look slightly different, but it still looks like a glider.
Okay. Then why, if you're on a glider, why do you need the gift of magic?
I believe the magic is what makes the glider fly. Because theoretically, you couldn't take a hang glider from
Oh, we're being logical.
around each of the 6
Oh,
continents.
we're being logical.
You need magic to do that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of silly. But it is cool that the reason that their version is so different, I believe, is because their version of the ride is in Disneyland. It's in a castle park. So
Okay.
everything is very magical and fantastical.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be kind of weird to have this industrial airport ride in
It's a little weird.
Fantasyland
Yeah.
or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I think they were trying to contrive a
Is
story.
this the only other one it's in?
The only other park?
Yes.
No, there's also Soaring.
With a G?
This is what? Soaring Over the Horizon. There's another one called Soarin' Fantastic Flight, but it's not open yet. We'll get there.
Okay. I can't wait.
So Soaring Over the Horizon at Shanghai Disneyland opened on June 16th, 2016. The next day, June 17th, 2016, a couple things happen. Here at EPCOT, we get a 3rd theater for Soarin'. We originally only had 2. And also, we get a new film, and it's called Soarin' Around the World, which is exactly the same as Soarin' Over the Horizon, except it has EPCOT at the end.
Right.
Instead of Shanghai. But I did not know that another park got Soarin' Around the World before DCA and EPCOT.
Technically one day before.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had
Amazing.
no idea.
No, I didn't
Really
either.
interesting. Soarin' Over the Horizon is what we're
What
riding.
year are we?
2016.
That was so recently.
I thought the same when I was reading this. I was like, Soarin' Around the World is only
like
10 years
8,
old,
yeah,
9 years old. That's crazy. I had no idea. Although it is true that when I stopped going to Disney in 2007, it was Soarin' Over California. And then when I came back in 2017, it was Soarin' Around the World. So I guess I didn't even know that it had changed. Yeah, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, there's a big chunk of time in there in that time frame where I wasn't going as much either because I was living in Tennessee. So that's fascinating.
I think it changed right in the midst of us like starting to think about coming back to Disney.
Yeah.
So anyway, that we had a 3rd theater also, which was great. But yeah, we got that then that's when we got Soarin' Around the World, and the same day Soarin' Around the World came to California Adventure, and they got a flyover of Sleeping Beauty Castle at the end. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
In Disneyland. So those 2 attractions, Soarin' Around the World and Over the Horizon, got a new score by Bruce Broughton, who had previously worked with Jerry Goldsmith, who was the original creator of the score, but he had passed away by the time that Soarin' Around the World was being created. So Bruce Broughton took his original score, the original score of Jerry Goldsmith, and then added new sections of variations for each of the different countries that you were in, which was kind of a cool, I think, respectful update. Much more respectful, I guess, than Disney normally cares to be when they update stuff, I think. When they updated Universe of Energy and they put Ellen in there, it was like they didn't keep practically any of the music or anything from the original version of the ride.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Respectful in a historical.
Yeah, it's like they were preserving it, which I get because it is an iconic score. Mm-hmm. And I bet they knew it. They were like, oh yeah, that one, the Soarin' one, that one is, we can't mess with that.
Yeah, that's nice.
We also got new scents. Rose blossoms in the Taj Mahal scene, grass in the Africa scene, and a sea breeze. You don't like that grass?
I don't hate it. Like, I'm not like, oh, I need to hold my nose like in Figment.
Yeah.
But
it's not as pleasant.
Yeah. It's not like, oh, I need a candle of this like I do with the Taj Mahal scene.
Yeah.
Go on.
I guess that scent is rose blossoms, which I did not know.
Okay. I really thought it was jasmine.
It smells like jasmine to me.
Yes, it does to me as well.
We've discussed how we both really enjoy the smell of jasmine, so we're always like, oh, the Taj Mahal, but I guess it's rose blossoms. And then there's a sea breeze in the South Pacific scene.
Yes, that one's pleasant also.
My husband hates that one. He says it smells like cheap cologne.
Well, all right.
Different people, they like different smells. I don't think.
Well, he obviously had an experience with a cheap cologne that was ocean scented or whatever. So I get that. I got that.
I did too. I think a lot of cheap cologne for men is ocean breeze.
Yeah, that
scented.
makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's where that comes from. I think none of them compare to the orange
For
smell.
real.
The
I
orange smell was
totally
so
agree.
good.
That's the superior smell.
I know. When Soarin' Over California, we'll get to this in a minute, but when it came back, I was like, oh my God, they're going to have the orange smell.
Yeah.
And they did, and it
And
was
they did.
great. It was like...
And Horizons had an orange smell. Do we get it anywhere anymore? I want to say no.
No, only when Soarin' Over California randomly comes back for a couple months.
That's disappointing. We
I
live in
know.
Florida.
EPCOT
You
should...
took the place of orange groves, Disney World. We should always be smelling orange.
I know. There definitely should be some orange going on, especially in EPCOT, which has two legendary orange smells from Soarin' and from Horizons. Where's the orange respect?
Yeah.
Just kidding. So this is where I guess we should discuss. There's also CGI in the Soarin' Around the World version of this film, where they add digital transitions and things to enhance the film. So before, it was hard cut transitions in Soarin' Over California,
where it was like a jump scare.
Where it was like, it was a strong, harsh jump cut. And now...
Well, and it was made to, in case you didn't write it when it was still around, is like a golf ball was coming at you and you would like scream and close your eyes and then you would be somewhere else.
That was definitely the most like, of all of them. But it was like, they were disruptive, I would say. And now the transitions are like a whale is jumping, a CGI whale is jumping out of the water and splashing its tail in the water is what transitions to. Or there's a guy on a CGI paraglider thing and he zooms through and there's a kite and the kite is what makes the transition. How do you feel about the CGI transitions, and which, I guess, do you prefer?
I prefer the gradual ones that we have now to
the current ones.
Yes. You don't see the hang glider on the new one, huh?
I guess you don't see that.
I was thinking
that was on the old one. I was thinking of the kite. There's a kite that like whips past the screen. Yes.
That's on the Great Wall of China.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes, I like the transitions now because they don't seem like the jump scare thing was, I guess, fun, but it seemed kind of cheap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the jump cuts were definitely... I guess I didn't mind them as a kid. I just wasn't thinking about it.
Yes. If I had to pick one, I think I'd pick what we have now.
It was a little funny to go back on Soarin' Over California when it came back and to not have any transitions. That was not that long ago.
That was last year in 2024.
No, that was not. Yeah, that was last year. That was not long ago at all. But it was, it was a funny reminder to be like, oh yeah, these all used to be jump cuts. That was wild. But I definitely didn't notice, and I think it's tough. There are things that I definitely like about both versions. The jump cuts, although they sometimes did kind of maybe take you out of it a little bit, there was something about that the CGI transitions to me, the current ones, that although I do feel they flow better for the ride, I feel like there's also an element of me not wanting the film to be CGI. I don't know what it is. Especially in that Taj Mahal film sequence, it feels like that entire sequence is entirely CGI, or at least like overlaid with scrubbing effects and stuff. That it feels unnatural, and I think it kind of throws me off a little bit when we get to that part. You don't perceive that?
No, okay. This is but I'm sure my husband does as well, as somebody that works in computers and worked with graphic design, and Jake works with graphic design.
This might just be my brain.
This might be your brain.
Okay, got it. Understood. That's fair enough. I don't, but I'm sure.
But we went back and forth over which one we liked better when it came out, because when they were like, "Oh, we're gonna let everybody experience Soarin' Over California again in 2024," we were like, "Okay, awesome. Now we're gonna decide which one we like better." And it was so much harder than you think it's gonna be.
It was actually. I still don't know if
I still don't know either. I think the answer would probably be that we preferred Soarin' Over California if it had a technical update.
Yeah, we want an upgraded Soarin,
Yes.
a remastered film.
Remastered.
Yeah, that would be
Because
great.
it was a little like grainy or whatever. You know what I mean?
You really
and
see
we've
how
gotten
much
used to, not we, just us, everybody,
Yeah.
society's gotten used to.
super high def.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And it shows you how fast the technology of both
So fast.
film capture and projection
Yeah.
have come in the past 20 years.
Yeah.
Because the difference was really noticeable.
It was very noticeable. And we didn't expect that. I don't know why we didn't expect it.
It was nostalgic for me, like turning on a VHS tape. It was like, it took me right back.
Yeah.
But yeah, the difference was crazy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I think the orange smell also really helped us choose the California option. But anyway, we like both. It is hard. It is
hard. And you don't have to pick because you're only going to get to do one or the other.
Yeah, you only get one.
Right. In early 2015, the California version of Soarin was refurbished because the surrounding area was no longer Condor Flats. They wanted to make it Grizzly Peak Airfield, which is a similar but different theme for that area. So they repainted the ride facade. They swapped out the plane for like a water tower thing. And they changed the sign and a bunch of other minor changes, and they updated, it reopened on May 15th, 2015 with new exterior theming and updates to the screen and projection system. So I think that's when they got rid of IMAX and brought in a laser projector, I believe is when that happened.
Interesting.
Which I probably was a lot better for the quality of the film. I wonder what theirs looks like now.
I have no idea what the difference is, to be honest.
Oh, a laser array projector uses like a bunch of little lasers to make the colors on the screen.
Oh, okay.
And the other one was an IMAX film projector, which was just an HD version of like a standard digital film projector, which was very impressive at the time.
Where is it projecting from?
Oh, I don't know, actually. Maybe it has to be a rear projection.
I would imagine.
Right behind the screen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which makes you think, God, that must be so complicated.
Yeah.
You know, that is such technical wizardry they're doing over there.
Yeah.
On July 23rd, 2019, this is when we get the Tokyo Disney Sea version, Soaring Fantastic Flight. Soaring. This version has a Renaissance theme. Ooh. And its ride vehicles are designed as something called Dream Flyers, which look like Michelangelo's flight invention things.
Just add Figment, and this would be like a combo of our two things.
Such a good idea. In the story of this ride, the Dream Flyers are created by Society of Explorers and Adventurers member and aviatrix Camila Falco.
This is in Tokyo?
This is in Tokyo. They've got a whole Mediterranean harbor land over there, and it's very Renaissance aesthetics, and I love that the ride vehicles of this one, all I've seen of this is the attraction poster with the really cool like wooden carved ride vehicles that look like the Michelangelo type illustrations, and I just think that is such a whimsical version of this aesthetic, you know?
Yes.
That's such a good idea to bring the attraction. Certainly a lot more curated than the airport version. You know?
Yeah.
Like, when you look at it from that perspective, it makes you think, that was really quite the jam. They like jammed it into the land pavilion. But now I feel like it's a lot better now that it's Soarin' Around the World.
Yes.
Because it feels a lot less like forced, you know? It
Right.
feels like that's what it always should have been.
Yes.
Anyway, in Fantastic Flight, the Paris scene with the Eiffel Tower is replaced with Tokyo at sunset with Mount Fuji in the background.
Of course, yeah.
And then the finale is the flight over Tokyo Disney Sea.
Okay.
So Soarin' Over California, so that's the most recent version of Soarin'. However, there have been updates to Soarin'.
Okay.
So Soarin' Over California returned to EPCOT from September 22nd to February 27th, 2023 to 2024 as part of Disney's 100 Years of Wonder celebration. And it returns to California Adventure each year during the Food and Wine Festival at California Adventure.
The entire Food and Wine
the
Festival?
entire Food and Wine Festival, they get Soarin' Over
Oh,
California,
cute.
which is very cute. I feel like it should be California Adventure all the time.
I do
there.
too.
I
but
mean,
an
Soarin'
updated
Over
version.
California.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a remastered Soarin' Over California.
Yep.
But whatever, they get it a good chunk of time throughout the year, so that's good. And I really enjoyed it coming back for the 100 Years of Wonder. I really enjoyed getting it back in EPCOT. I was really glad that they chose to do that. It was very surprising to us at the time.
It was.
It was
Yeah.
like, why? But I'm not complaining. But
Well,
why?
we had a theory, but it was wrong. So
It was wrong, but we weren't that far off
We
because okay, this is actually
but it
the
was
last thing.
clearly not the reason.
We thought they were closed. They were putting that in there so that they could install a new ending to fix.
Yeah. Because
the
EPCOT had gone
flyover.
through a major renovation
Yeah.
between when they filmed the first one and what's there now, and it made no sense.
Right. You were still looking at the Fountain of Nations.
Right.
You were still looking
which hasn't
at,
existed in years.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
were looking at Communicore
Yeah.
Interventions, those buildings, and they're half of them are gone now.
Right.
So yeah, definitely needed an update. And it came on November 20th, 2024.
Like a few months after.
Right.
We had so that
Yeah.
wasn't the purpose of us getting
No, it
we
wasn't.
just kind of got it for
It was just like random.
yeah, it,
which
it felt random.
I'm happy.
I
but-
guess you're saying now it was because of it was in celebration of the 100-year.
Yeah, that's what the article said. But when I think about it, I'm like, I don't.
We didn't hear anything about that at the time.
I know. It didn't. I mean, yes, the 100 Years of Wonder celebration
was happening.
It was happening, but I guess it just didn't click.
Well, they didn't say anything about
It was
this
a
is what you're
separate-
getting.
Yeah.
Like with the 50th anniversary, they're like, you're getting this and this and this
Right.
and this,
At
and we're like,
D23,
woo!
they
Yes,
told us
exactly.
everything. This was just random.
Yes.
Like the Muppet Rock and Roller Coaster thing, just dropped out of nowhere in the
Boom.
middle of
Yes.
everything. It's always wild when they do that.
Yes.
Um,
It's like a random Tuesday.
But they did on November 20th of 2024, they put in a new finale. So now the Epcot flyover has the current version of the park, and they tried to fix the Eiffel Tower
Oh, you
sequence.
said tried.
What?
I haven't done it yet.
I said tried because I know you haven't done it yet, and I don't want
Well,
to
no, go ahead.
influence your opinion
Go ahead.
one way or the other.
Go
I
ahead.
think they did a pretty good job.
Right.
What they've done.
Oh, you guys know, just in case you didn't know, it is like
Right,
a
thank you.
major joke to everybody about how if you're not sitting in the very middle,
2
yes,
2A or whatever.
B1.
Oh,
I think.
that's right. B.
Yeah,
B,
if you're
B,
not in
yeah.
section B, if you're in section A or C, then when you see the Eiffel Tower, it's like leaning
Right.
because whatever
It's
the way that
warped because of the concave screen.
yes.
Yes.
So now they supposedly fixed it.
Uh-huh.
Well, I guess they did.
I'm actually not gonna get into the boy.
Don't do that for me. I am way late to this game.
They basically
We talked about going in November and we kept going, but the lines were crazy and we were trying to do holiday stuff and then it's just like
there's a new portion of not a new portion. They've replaced the Paris portion with a new Paris portion.
oh my god.
Yeah. And
That's how they fixed it. They just changed it.
well, yes, the Eiffel Tower is still in it though.
Okay.
So you still
But it's not
you
like
still
in the middle.
are
probably.
looking at the Eiffel Tower. It's just a brand new Paris
Okay, got it.
version.
Well,
So
that's cool.
so that's what they did, and I think it is much more effective, to be honest. And I think it just has to do with the fact this happened a little bit, I feel, with the Golden Gate Bridge on Soarin' Over California,
Yeah.
but not nearly to the same extent. And I
Right.
think the problem is the vertical, super tall
yeah.
vertical lines
Right in front of you.
on a concave, rounded
Yeah.
screen with you so close to the center of the screen. I just think the technology and the shot didn't work together.
And it became such a joke.
And
Like,
everyone was talking about the floppy noodle Eiffel Tower. Yeah. So it was cool that while they knew they had to fix the flyover, update the flyover for Epcot at some point, I really liked the fact that they took a swing at correcting something that
Yes.
guests are constantly saying was a little shoddy part of the
Yeah.
experience, you know?
And hopefully they learned from this experience that when they're testing something out, they should probably test it in multiple different seats of the auditorium.
I
Or
can't
whatever you
believe
call it.
that
That they
wasn't a
didn't? I
thing.
know.
Maybe there was just no budget to reshoot once they realized what the problem was. Because Soarin' Over California, the first one, was way over budget when they
Okay.
were developing it, and Michael Eisner personally paid for
Really?
several of the.
Really?
Well, there was compositing in that one. Like the golf ball was like a CGI golf ball for like transitions. And that scene in particular and other small parts of the attraction were paid for by Michael Eisner.
Well,
and,
you could see why people would think he was the golfer then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I would be like, okay, this was my money.
I know. I wonder who like started that rumor. I wonder how that began.
Yeah.
You know, it feels like probably one of those things where it's like someone tells a story and then another person.
Yeah, it's like telephone.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, so Soarin' is expensive, I guess, to like film and put on because of, first of all, when they first started filming Soarin', they were using this new IMAX HD camera, which apparently was very expensive. And then to coordinate the shots, the flyover shots, is also apparently quite expensive to do.
Yeah, I'm sure everything is, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe Soarin', once they saw that Eiffel Tower, they were like, well, that's what we've got, so it is what it is. But then I look at the Fiji scene and I'm like, how much of that is even actual footage to begin with?
It's a good point.
So it's cool that they fixed it though, or that they, that they tried to address the problem. I think that is, there are sometimes when Disney attractions, like, we're never going to see them fix the Tiana's Bayou Adventure storyline. No matter how many guest complaints it gets, I just don't see a world where they close that attraction for a couple months and retool it to be a better version of itself. They would just come up with a whole new theme or just let it ride until whenever. You know what I mean? I just don't see them doing that right now.
Unless there's an easy story fix. You're right though. I don't see that happening either. I think they're just gonna leave well enough alone. But
exactly. But for this, they saw it. They were like, "Oh, we could probably do something with that," and they did. And
10 years.
I know. Literally. But that's the type of thing that I'm like, okay, well, they saw a problem and they took a swing at it. I love that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
I do too.
Next, let's do the Yeti. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
I bet
maybe
this
if we make fun of it enough, I bet people have been making fun of the Yeti forever.
Oh, so yeah, that's why we call it Disco Yeti.
Yeah.
Because everyone's making memes about the fact that we're just shining a light on the broken thing. But I also understand that is apparently a very technologically difficult.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah.
It's not a scene in a film.
Right.
You know, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
All right, Morgan, any final thoughts on Soarin' Around the World, Soarin' Over California, Soarin' Fantastic Flight, Soaring Over the Horizon?
Oh my God. No, I'm very psyched to try out that Tokyo one at some point.
Oh my gosh, I know. It sounds so cool. It's in like this temple where they observe the legend of flight.
Yeah.
It's like this whole thing. Oh, wait.
I might get to do this at some point.
Really, the Tokyo one?
Yeah,
oh
Bailey wants to do Tokyo for a grad trip. So.
I'll be in your suitcase. Don't you worry about it. I'll be there too. I'll be on top of the hang glider. They'll never suspect me. All right, we're actually gonna get to do this later today, just as for you guys after we record this podcast.
Not the Tokyo one.
Not the Tokyo one. We don't have tickets. We don't have a plane. We're soaring to Tokyo.
Yeah.
No, we're getting to do the EPCOT one today, and I'm super excited because I've spent so much time looking at the history of Soarin'. I'm like, oh gosh, now we get to do it. Fun.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about Soaring. Wow, look at what this podcast has done to me. My favorite thing about Soarin' is the music.
Yeah.
I love that score so much.
I love the music too, and the smells.
Oh, the smells are good. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this fantastic flight through the history of Soarin'. If you would like to see more content about Disney history, about food, shopping, and entertainment in the parks, you should also visit us on Instagram and TikTok at Neverland Navco.
Yep. And we also have an Etsy store called Neverland Navigation on Etsy, where we do shirts, dish towels, sweatshirts, and they are like custom Disney stuff. So you send me a message on Neverland Navigation on Etsy and tell me what you love, and I will send you some design options. Super fun.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will see you on
our next adventure.
Goodbye.
Bye.